Hi, it's Alexis.
And Christian from Tiny House Expedition. And we built our tiny house way back in 2014.
With the help of friends and family, over 9 months of ups and downs and trial and error, it was all worth it in the end.
We built a cozy custom home of our own that led us to an adventure of a lifetime. And now we're working on a shuttle bus conversion.
In our DIY Tiny Home Build Stories series, we hope to inspire and empower you to take on your own build by yourself or with help.
I needed help. I definitely needed help.
I'm Jillian. Welcome to the Greener Grass Tiny House. We are on a remote island in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm excited to share it with you. And so I started doing my research, and I attended a workshop, a little weekend workshop to just talk about tiny houses, and because I had never even been in a tiny house, which was the crazy thing. I'm like, this is gonna be my new life. I just don't know what it's like. And so I bought the trailer and then just went down to part-time at my job, and kind of the rest of the time I learned how to build. So I built the tiny house. I left Denver and went back to where I was born and raised in Georgetown, Colorado, moved in with my mom, which is a huge help. I think that's a part of tiny house building. People don't know where to build it. They don't have a place. So I was really fortunate to move in with my mom, at the ripe old age of 31 or whatever, and she had an extra lot. And so I had a huge garage to keep all my tools, and then the lot to build it on. And I kind of knew all my neighbors, so it felt like a good, safe place to do it. It wasn't covered or anything, so, weather and stuff made it difficult, but building doesn't stop for the weather. So from when I picked up my trailer to when I finished it, it took me 16 months to build it. I say by myself, but it was not by myself, because every single person I know pretty much helped me. Coworkers, friends, family. I had a couple build days. I had some random guy from a bar that I met that wanted to help out, and he came up. Just people came out of the woodwork to help me with this. I had some friends and family fly in from out of town when I reached out needing help. But it took me 16 months total, because I still had to work part-time. And at the same time that you're building, you're still designing the next stage. So it's a lot of physical exertion, a lot of mental exertion of things you don't even know about. So you're researching, and I'd stand there at the hardware store and I'd be like, looking at something, so confused, like no idea what to do, like in the plumbing section or the propane section. And some old man would come by and be like, need some help? And I was like, yes, I do. And so just so much information came from random people that identified this confused look on my face. Or I would, go to the construction site down the road and be like, question, I need help. Does anybody have a pipe cutter or whatever? And, it definitely took a village to do it. So. This kitchen is the second design of the kitchen. Originally, my countertop stopped there and my refrigerator was there. And as anybody who has lived in a tiny space knows, that it's a constant evolving process. And so I just didn't have enough counter space to cook with. And so I turned an old sewing machine into extra counter space. And if I really wanted more counter space, this folds out to have double the counter space. But it allowed for me to put some drawers underneath as well. This cabinet I got at Habitat for Humanity. And then the sink is actually the second version of the sink, because the first sink that I bought was a bar sink. It made sense. It was small, tiny house, perfect, but it was this deep, this big. I broke almost all my dishes because it made no sense. And so although it meant cutting out more of my countertop to get this bigger sink, I found a perfect big one basin sink at an antique shop for like $15. And so that has been a huge game changer. So this is actually the third refrigerator of the tiny house. The first refrigerator that I got, again, the idea was to be tiny, and it was, you know, the half size kind of dorm fridge, not enough freezer space. So I knew I needed to upgrade, and I knew that I wanted red, because who doesn't want a red fridge? I'm just saying. And they delivered a white fridge, and so that was a huge bummer. So the reason this is the third fridge is because it took them months before they could replace the white fridge with the red fridge. And it's been amazing. It holds so much more space, and it fills out the space really nicely. It has a great freezer. Literally blood, sweat, and tears. Like almost sawed my face off, almost, you know, there's a lot of dangerous moments and a lot of tears. A challenging part was the electrical. And it was one of those things that a lot of people said, you need to hire somebody. Do not do this on your own. You're not an electrician. And I am so stubborn. I was like, nope, I'm going to learn how to do it. And I did so much research, and I reached out to this amazing person who became such a good friend of mine, and he was my mentor. And we just developed such a wonderful friendship. He would tell me what to do, and then I would do it, and then he'd come back, and then he helped me when it came time to do the heavy stuff with like the inverter and just, you know, installing, designing an on-grid, off-grid electrical system. So challenging. And there's a lot that I would do differently with that, but I'm also so proud about it because now I feel like I have a really good baseline understanding of electrical stuff. And if I ever were to start another career, it would definitely be an electrician. One of my favorite pieces of the tiny house is my bay window, but the bay window was not originally part of the design. I had originally wanted to do this big funky trapezoid window, and then after trying to install it and realizing that the shearing forces and the fact that it's at the front of the trailer was going to be was going to break. And I really love bay windows. I tore it all out and decided to build a bay window, and that was really difficult because there's a lot of angles that you have to do in there, and it was the middle of winter, and that's when I had no friends available to help, go figure. And so it's the middle of winter, and I'm out there in the snow trying to assemble this bay window. I love it. I think a lot of people, it kind of opens the space a little bit, and a lot of people compliment on it from the outside and the inside. If somebody came to me and asked for advice about building a tiny house, or if they should, I would say 110% yes. But I would go spend some time in tiny houses first, which is kind of difficult if you don't know people with tiny houses. I think once you get into the tiny house world, all of a sudden you're like finding different tiny house people everywhere. But considering, in my experience, I had to go to a tiny house expo before I even went into a tiny house. And at that point, I was already committed to the build. And just seeing the different way things are designed would be my biggest recommendation, because when I talk to my friends that also live in tiny houses, you know, we all have a thing that we would do differently, or how our space could be better utilized. And so certain things, for me, for example, is where my loft is compared to the different roof pitches. I didn't know, and I didn't know this even until I went to my friend's tiny house, that I should have started the gable roof further back and kept whatever this roof is called a lot longer, because getting into the loft, you're hitting the gable roof and you're really having to army crawl in there. But I didn't know that. I figured I'll put the roof here where the loft ends. And I think if I would have spent more time in a tiny house, that might be something that I would have maybe figured out. Under the stairs, we have the closet. So I have 2 tiers of where I could hang clothes behind the beaded curtain. And then part of a big design piece with the stairs was that I built in a dresser where I could keep all my clothes. And of course, I've got my full-length mirror so that I can see what I look like, because I find that it's hard to know what you look like in a tiny house. And then of course, behind everything is more storage, some drawers that pull out, some that you just kind of tuck stuff in, and it's ever evolving just like everything else. One of the rewarding parts of the tiny house, besides seeing how it came together at the end, it's the little pieces. So like my kitchen counter was built out of cherry hardwood floor that a person I've known my entire life had in their basement, and he gave to me, and I was like, what could I do with this? Oh, I'll make a counter. And then, you know, the little things that would creep up, like I ran out of flooring, and my sister was like, add in some mosaic tile. Well, it's cheap and it's cute, and so little things like that would start to come together, and you really start feeling like this shell is becoming this really great piece of art on its own.
Hey, it's Alexis again.
And Christian from Tiny House Expedition. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And to watch the full tour of the DIY tiny home you just learned about, click over here.